Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Ali here, a platform where we have some casual conversations about sex, relationships, and other fun stuff. Now, real talk. You've probably seen a dentist, a doctor, maybe even a general therapist, but have you ever seen a sex therapist? Because if you haven't, you are probably missing out on some really good intel about your body, your pleasure, and your relationships. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some really interesting research about sex therapists in the United States. And I'm also going to tell you why I think that everyone should see a sex therapist at least once in their lives. And no, it is not just for people that are having problems in the bedroom. But before we get into all that, I wanted to share with you my personal experience with sex therapy, because yes, I do see a sex therapist. I actually just recently looked for one because I am going through some spicy changes in my relationship, and I wanted to make sure that I was being equipped with the right tools, strategies, and coping mechanisms to deal with whatever it is coming my way. But this isn't the first time I've seen a sex positive therapist. Now, generally, I believe in therapy. I think everyone should see a therapist at some point or another, not only when you're in crisis mode. Some people may disagree with that, but it really is helpful to have someone that has a dedicated time for you and your shit, okay? And where you can get some non-judgmental, unbiased feedback about what it is that you're feeling and going through and so on. So I have seen a general therapist way back when for certain things that I was going through in my life at the time, but it's only when I started dating my current partner, boyfriend, Gab, where we decided when we got together as a couple that we wanted to try some interesting, spicy, alternative experiences. We wanted to invite people into our bedroom, and even though I was so excited to do these things, I really didn't know how I was gonna feel when I actually did them. Maybe I was gonna hate it and never want to do it again. I don't know. So a friend of mine recommended a friend of hers that was a open relationship, poly, sex positive kink therapist. And at that time, it was very, very helpful. It really helped me navigate through certain situations that we had, and I really enjoyed the experience. Fast forward till now, my boyfriend and I are again trying something sort of new and dipping our toes a little bit. We're opening up the relationship just a little bit, getting a little more monogamish, as you'd say. And I, once again, wanted to see a sex therapist to help me navigate what's to come. If there's anything to come. Maybe it's all gonna be great, but let's be honest, things always happen, right? Especially in relationships. So I wanted to be able to have a safe space where I can talk about how I'm feeling and what I'm going through with someone who could provide me with some good guidance. Since I'm a sex education student with the Sexual Health Alliance, who also trains general therapists how to be sex therapists, I am very picky on who I was looking for, because I have learned, and looking at the statistics, that most general therapists aren't trained in sex therapy. So I wanted to make sure that I found someone with all the positives, the kink, the sex, the body, the open, the whatever, all the positives, okay, to be my sex therapist. And man, it has been so fun. Okay, my therapist practice is called Erotic Empathy, by the way, which is a great name. And it's been really liberating. I mean, not only have I been talking about, this particular experience that Gab and I are going through with the open stuff, which by the way, I made a video about, I will link it at the end of this one, about opening up our relationship a little bit. But I have started to talk about other things too, like my body, my orgasms, my desires, my fucked up fantasies and stuff. And it's been really fun. All right, it's been fun. So no, I'm not in crisis. I went for preventative measures, and it's been a really great learning experience so far. And that being said, if you are interested in my videos and in my content and learning more about my experiences, you can check out my Patreon. I'm gonna link it below, where I do share a lot of my personal experiences. I started posting a little bit more spicy content, some boudoir-esque photos, exploring my body a little bit, I also post a lot of travel vlogs on there because we do travel a lot. So anyways, if you're interested, you can check it out below. And just keep in mind that if you do join, keep in mind that you are motivating me to continue learning and pursuing the sex journey that I'm on, and provide you with all the stuff that I'm soaking into my brain. So let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about some reasons why someone might want to see a sex therapist, and maybe you fit into one of these categories. So number one, you're struggling with desire. Either you have too much or you don't have enough, or maybe it's your partner. Number two, you're in a relationship and it feels a little off. Number three, you have pain during sex, you have trouble orgasming, or you have performance anxiety. Number five, you want to explore kink and fantasy, but you have no idea how. Number six, Maybe your fantasies are so effed up, you think you are not normal at all, and you feel like you need someone to talk to you about these things. Which, by the way, a lot of us have really effed up fantasies, by the way, and most of them are normal, okay? Just saying that. Next, maybe you're healing from some trauma or shame. Or you're navigating gender identity, orientation, or body image. Or finally, maybe you are just a curious human being and you are looking to live a healthier, more joyful, more active sex life. The truth is, sex therapy isn't just for people in crisis. It is for curious, thoughtful, and pleasure-seeking humans like you and me. Now, what actually happens in a sex therapy session? Just keep it in mind, your clothes are gonna stay on and you're not gonna be playing with any toys or anything or like that. If you want someone more hands-on, not to say that you're gonna have sex with them, sex coaches are a little bit more hands-on and, help you and show you how to use toys and things like that. But sex therapists, generally it's talk therapy with a sexual wellness lens. So they help you understand your blocks, patterns, and beliefs. They work with individuals or couples or however many people are involved in your situation. They may use tools like body mapping, communication exercises, or mindfulness, and they create a shame-free, non-judgmental zone for you to talk about sex. Literally, that's what they're paid for. To hear you talk about sex, to hear you talk about the crazy sexual stuff that goes on in your brain. It's like having a guide to your erotic self and having someone there help you understand and navigate what turns you on and try to figure out what's preventing you from getting there. So now you've made it this far in the video and you're like, all right, I'm in. You know what? I think it would be interesting to have a consult with a sex therapist and learn a little bit more what this is about. But how do I find one that's not creepy or weird? Now, I feel like sex therapists have a little bit of a bad rap. Like a high school art teacher, you always imagine them to be like kind of kooky and they're like wearing polka dots and things like that. That's how I feel like a lot of people see sex therapists as, which is obviously not the case. Now, before I get into steps on how to find a good sex therapist, I wanted to share some really interesting research with you from a study that was done in 2021 that looked at sex therapists all across America. And it turns out, depending where you live, your experience with a sex therapist can be very, very different. Now, I live in Canada, so although some of what I'm about to share with you is quite general and it can apply to Canada and just like humans in general, most of my audience on YouTube comes from the United States, and this data is very US specific. So here's the gist. Not all sex therapists are actually trained in sex. So what I'm learning as a part of my education with the Sexual Health Alliance is that most general therapists receive little to no training in sex at all. So they're really not equipped to handle certain conversations. And some of them may say that they are trained in sex, but again, they don't really have real training in it. Number two, in some places, sex is still incredibly taboo. Now, according to the study, if you are looking for some sex positive therapy and you live in the South, you might have a little bit of trouble. I'm talking about places like Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, where therapists are less likely to have specialized training and are influenced more by conservative religious values. Some therapists even push their own beliefs onto your clients, especially if you're queer, kinky, or just living an adventurous, fabulous life. Now, when we talk about porn, some therapists still think it's the absolute devil. In some parts of the country, watching porn is still seen as a moral failure instead of just a natural human behavior. And some therapists won't even talk about it without even judging you. Then we have religion that is running the show sometimes. As I mentioned, what's wild is that in some parts of the US, especially the South, therapists are more likely to filter their advice through moral and religious frameworks. That means less science and more sermons, which can lead to some real problems when you're just trying to get some real help around sex. Now, if you're LGBTQ+, things can get real tricky. So not all therapists are affirming. Some might ignore your identity, try to talk you out of it, or just not get it. And in some places, that's still happening a lot. So the bottom line is that sex therapy isn't the same everywhere, and in some places, it can actually be really harmful, which is crazy. That's why we need more education, better rules, and more love and respect for all kinds of people and pleasure. So what do we do from here? First of all, I want to remind you that if you do come from the South or you live in a very conservative area, keep in mind that the internet is a great thing. You can do therapy via Zoom. You don't necessarily have to see someone in person. So where do you look? First step, I recommend you look for a board certified professional. So you look at organizations like ASECT, CRPO, and BETSCO. I'm gonna link them in the description down below this video. There are other directories that you can use like asec.org, therapy10.com, or Psychology Today, which is where I actually found my therapist. I looked for local therapists in my area, and then they have filtering options, and I made sure to check off all the positives, like the sex positive, kink positive, fetish positive, poly positive, all the positives. And then I found my wonderful therapist. So you want to make sure they are licensed and trained in sex therapy and not just a therapist who talks about sex. Again, I mentioned that before. Most general therapists receive little to no training in sex. So you want to make sure that you find someone that actually has put time and effort into their sex therapy training. And on platforms like Psychology Today, you can actually book a free consult. So for my therapist with Erotic Empathy, I actually did get a free consult, and that can be really helpful because it does take time to find the right therapist, especially if you're talking about sex and all like the nasty thoughts that you got going on in your head. You want to make sure that you are feeling comfortable with the person it is that you choose. So it's 100% okay to shop around to find the person that vibes with you most. Once again, I want to wrap up this video by reminding you that therapy in general, but sex therapy, is not only for when you're in crisis or having sex in the bedroom. It can be an incredible learning experience for you to learn about your body, learn about your fantasies, learn about your desires, and it can be really fun also. I know that a lot of people go to therapy or sex therapy to, get over some trauma and shame and so on, but if you look at it from a place of just general learning and a space where you can have someone to talk to about your sex life, because let's be honest, a lot of people watching this video right now, I'm guaranteeing you that you don't have very many people that you can talk openly about the nastiness that goes on in your brain. All right, and maybe you do, but then maybe it's a filtered version and you can't really get really raw with them and be really honest because, again, of shame, of guilt, and so on. There is so much more to sex than we are taught. And sex therapy can really help us to unlock parts of ourselves that we didn't even know were locked. Again, I am learning a lot about myself, and I look forward to therapy every single time it happens because I cannot wait to unload and share some of, the fun, crazy fantasy desires that I have and what they mean and how I'm gonna live them out one day or not live them out or whatever, I don't know, but it's just been a really fun experience. So this is what I want the takeaway to be from this video, is you looking at sex therapy as a place of opportunity and learning and fun. And I'm gonna link all those organizations below so you can check them out and start shopping for a sex therapist if you wanted to. And I would love, love, love to hear your comments or questions about it. If you've been in therapy, if you've been in sex therapy, and what your experiences were. And if you have any concerns or you're nervous about it, like, drop them below so we can help each other. And lastly, I just want to remind you about my Patreon. If you want to connect more with me and the content and motivate me to continue studying sex education and sharing with you all the crazy, interesting, fascinating stuff that I'm learning, you could check out in the link below. You can join for free or you can join as paid, whatever works for you. So that's it, friends. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Je vous aime.